Donald Trump and his children are being called on to testify under oath after New York's Attorney General Letitia James released further details in regard to the alleged fraud Trump and his business has engaged in. Now, there was a recent court filing by Letitia James, and the whole point of the court filing was to respond to Trump and his family essentially trying to block any attempts to force them to testify under oath. This is a civil lawsuit. He is also facing a possible possible criminal charges. There's a criminal investigation tied to these fraud allegations as well. But I do want to give you the details outlined in this document because we have more detail in regard to what Trump allegedly inflated in value in order to secure insurance and other benefits for his businesses. He essentially inflated his assets. So the filing outlined what James's office termed misleading statements about the value of at least 6 Trump properties as well as the Trump brand. The properties included golf clubs in Westchester County, New York, and Scotland, flagship buildings such as 40 Wall Street in Manhattan, and Trump's own penthouse home in Trump Tower. Now, this wasn't only to obtain insurance, it's also to obtain loans. One of the ways that you're able to qualify for a loan is by using your assets as collateral. And so the allegation here is that Trump, his family members, his business intentionally lied, intentionally inflated the value of his assets in order to obtain these loans, in order to obtain the insurance. Now, James's filing argued that the company misstated the value of the properties to lenders, insurers, and even the IRS. Many of the statements, the filing argued, were generally inflated as part of a pattern to suggest that Trump's net worth was higher than it otherwise would have appeared. That is, by the way, the most expected thing to come from Donald Trump. I mean, this braggadocious, like constant chest thumping guy. Oh wow, he was inflating the value of his assets. Wow, that's shocking news. Now, some of the lies that were outlined in this court filing, this legal filing, were pretty outlandish, okay? So the company inflated valuations with $150,000, for instance, $150,000 initiation fees into Trump's golf club in Westchester that it actually never collected. Mansions that had not yet been built on one of his private estates, and 20,000 square feet in his Trump Tower triplex that also did not exist. So he was, if this is proven to be true, he was not only inflating the value of his assets, he was claiming to have assets that didn't even exist yet. And by the way, he would inflate the value of his assets, allegedly, when it came to obtaining loans or insurance. But then he would also, in other cases, deflate the value of his assets. Why would he do that? Well, his own personal former attorney, Michael Cohen, explained why during a 2019 hearing. Let's hear how that all went down.
While the president claimed in financial disclosure forms that Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida, was worth more than $50 million. He had reported otherwise to local tax authorities that the course was worth, quote, no more than $5 million. Mr. Cohen, do you know whether this specific report is accurate?
It's identical to what he did at Trump National Golf Club at Briarcliff Manor.
Do you know, to your knowledge, was the president interested in reducing his local real estate bills, tax bills?
Yes.
And how did he do that?
What you do is you deflate the value of the asset, and then you put in a request to the tax department for a deduction.
So in other words, he would deflate assets in order to save money on taxes, to basically skirt having to pay taxes. So tax fraud, if that is something he's being investigated for and it's found to be true, that's a serious crime that all of us would spend time in prison for. Then there's the issue that Letitia James has outlined in this latest court filing, showing that he had intentionally inflated assets. And if he did do that, that is fraud with the intention to obtain loans and insurance. In 2015, for example, while seeking to refinance a loan on his 40 Wall Street tower in Lower Manhattan, Trump's statement of financial condition estimated that the property was worth $735 million. Yet one lender concluded it was worth only $257 million. Wow, that's quite a disparity there. I wonder what explains that. Now, of course, Trump is not open or willing to testify under oath, neither are his family members. And so Trump is fighting this as hard as he can. There's also some question in regard to whether or not he's really gonna face serious consequences for this. What Letitia James is pursuing here is a civil lawsuit. This is not a criminal investigation, but to be fair, there is also a criminal investigation tied to these allegations of fraud. In early December, James issued a subpoena for Trump as well as for Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump, seeking to question them as part of her civil inquiry. James already questioned another one of Trump's sons, Eric Trump, in October of 2020. But guess what? It seems like he had a little bit of a guilty conscience. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right against incriminating himself in response to more than 500 questions, the new court filing said. And so after receiving these subpoenas, that's when Trump and his lawyers decided to file a federal lawsuit against Letitia James. And the argument here is that this is a witch hunt, this is politically motivated, even though it seems as though there is sufficient evidence to move forward with this investigation and possibly any fines or consequences that come along with committing this type of fraud. James's lawyers said that the release of the details would not hamper their investigation, and added that the office was also looking into other content not discussed in this latest filing. And just to give you some more information about the criminal investigation into this matter, James's inquiry is running parallel to a criminal investigation led by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, which is examining some of the same conduct. And is it likely that Trump will face any real consequences? Well, I'm a pessimistic person when it comes to people in positions of power, even people who were in positions of power. People like Trump, former presidents, they typically get away with everything, whether it's war crimes, financial crimes, fraud, all sorts of things. So I wanna make sure that we don't get too excited or get our hopes up that justice would be served in this case. And also there's one other issue. So a case like this could be hard to prove, as the New York Times writes. Property valuations are often subjective. And Mr. Trump's lawyers are likely to note that his lenders and insurers, sophisticated financial institutions that turned a profit off their relationship with the Trumps, did not rely on the company's estimates. So I'm just not really interested in believing what Trump's lawyers have to say. However, the statement regarding property valuations being subjective, that's definitely true. But how do you also account for the fact that they provided valuations for properties that like don't even exist? It's a little bit of a problem. It's like me going to a bank and telling the bank, yo, I need a loan, homie. You give me a loan? Okay, what are you gonna use for collateral? Oh, that $50 million mansion I have. I have a $50 million mansion. That's fraud, you can't do that. And if proven, that's essentially what Trump and his business did. So we'll see how this all plays out. It's amazing how easily they just lie about these kinds of things and usually fail to suffer any consequences for it.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.